What's up to all my creators, it's JP here. Today I'll be showing you how to color correct your log footage using the right workflow. We'll cover everything from color space transform to exposure and a few bonus steps to perfect your look. Okay, that's enough talking, let's jump right in. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is convert our footage to the correct color space. Log profiles like S-Log3 or V-Log capture a wide dynamic range, but they need to be transformed to Rec. 709 for proper viewing and grading. In DaVinci Resolve, we use the color space transform effect, which can be found under Effects in Resolve FX Color. As you can see here, color space transform. You just drag and drop that over your first node. And as you can see, a bunch of settings will pop up, such as input color space, input gamma, output color space, output gamma, so on and so forth. You want to select your camera's input settings, for example, S-Log3 and S-Gamut3 for Sony, and set the output to Rec. 709. This gives you a neutral starting point for further corrections. So this is what that looks like. As you can see, our input color space is Sony S-Gamut3, and our input gamma is Sony S-Log3. And for your output color space, you want to do Rec. 709 for both. And as you can see, our image went from this to this, which is already a million times better. This gives you a neutral starting point for further corrections. Color space transform first. Why? Because when log footage is captured in a wide color gamut and dynamic range, it's not ideal for grading directly. When you apply a color space transform to convert it to Rec. 709 or a similar target space, this ensures your colors and your contrasts are displayed accurately. This step establishes a neutral baseline for corrections. Another tip on top of that is if your editing software doesn't have CST, you can use a technical LUT provided by your camera manufacturer. This step ensures that your colors are accurate. Now we're ready to fine tune. Okay, so next up is white balance. Log footage can sometimes appear too warm or too cool, or even greenish depending on your lighting. So let's add another node here and use the dropper to find a neutral point in our image. I think this gray building right here is solid. And as you can see, there wasn't much change. So it looks like the camera got the white balance right out of camera. So even if we toggle this node, you don't see much of a change because again, our camera's white balance is pretty good and pretty accurate. If that's not available, then manually adjust the temperature and tint sliders into the white to look neutral and skin tones look natural. Correct white balance before adjusting exposure or saturation to ensure your colors are accurate and natural. If your white balance is off, any other adjustments will amplify those inaccuracies, making your footage look unrealistic. Okay, so next up, we have our exposure. So again, let's add another node. And while we're at it, let's actually label these nodes. So we'll go here, and this is our CST node, color space transform. This second one is our white balance. Let's put a WB here. And the third one that we're going to adjust now is our exposure. So when adjusting your exposure, you want to make sure you go to your scopes down here and have it selected to the waveform scope, which as you can see, it's already on, but this is the scope you want to be on when you adjust your exposure. Log profiles often need exposure adjustments to bring back contrast and details. Start by looking at your waveform monitor, and the goal is to stretch your highlights and shadows without clipping. And to do so, you want to come over here to your Curves tab, Custom Curves. You want to take the topmost point and the bottommost point and compress them. And the same with your shadows. Our shadows are already pretty dark, so we don't have to do much. Definitely brightens up the image a lot. If the footage still feels flat, use an S-curve for more depth. Adjusting exposure comes after white balance because accurate color temperature helps you judge highlights, shadows, and overall brightness better. This step restores proper contrast and ensures your footage looks dynamic without clipping details in the highlights or shadows. Now your footage has that rich, dynamic look, but we're not done yet. Let's add another node, and this will be our saturation. So we can just come here, sat. And even though our image is already pretty saturated, you can still come to your primaries and adjust it either up or down, depending on how you would like your image to look. So I like my saturation to be anywhere between 65 and 85. So this is 65 here, and this is 85. So 85 looks a bit much to me, so we're gonna go with the low end and do 65. And let's toggle this node. You can see before the saturation adjustment and after. Log footage is naturally desaturated, and you have to bring those colors back to life. Start by increasing global saturation to make the image pop, and then refine specific colors using the HSL adjustments or the color wheels. So our color wheels are here, as you can see. And then let's just play with those a little bit so I can show you guys what that looks like. We can take our gamma, which represents our midtones, and we can add a green look, warmer, a cooler look. I think I like this warm look here. We can adjust our lift, which is our shadows. Maybe some more warmth. And we can even adjust our gain, which is our highlights. So let's see what this looks like before the saturation adjustment and after. Want to take it further? Use HSL secondary tools to tweak individual colors, such as warming up skin tones or deepening the blues in water. Log footage is naturally desaturated, so increasing saturation is necessary to restore vibrancy. However, this should always be done after exposure and white balance corrections, because those adjustments affect perceived color intensity. And now our fifth and final step will be adding a finishing touch with additional contrast and vignettes. So let's add an additional serial node here. And we can label this as, let's just put VIG. We also set additional contrast. It doesn't seem like this image needs much additional contrast, in all honesty. But if you would like to, I would suggest going back to your custom curves and selecting on editable splines. And then when you click this top most point over here, you'll see an additional point pop up. You can raise it up to increase the brightest parts of your image. And then you can do the same thing with the bottommost point by clicking it, and you'll see an additional point pop up. You can take that and you can drag that down as well. Two, like I said before, add additional contrast. So let's see what that looks like with before and after. Subtle, but definitely makes a difference. And then also in this same node, we're going to add a vignette. So if you go over to your effects page and just type in VIG, it'll pop up. You can take it, you can drag it on top of the image. And as you can see, it put a nice dark faded window. Once that's here, you can play with the size and the anamorphism like so. So we're just going to adjust that until we get it the way that we like it. You can even change the color of the vignette. So maybe instead of black, you want to do red. See what that looks like. You can do purple if you want to. I'm not sure why you would do these colorful images, but you know, you have full creative control on what you want to do with your image. So let's try this brownish, yellowish color right here, just to see. So there's it with the vignette, and there's it without. We can even go into our global blend and decrease the amount of vignette, like so. Last thing, additional contrast and finishing touches. This step is for creative refinements. You might add subtle contrasts or vignettes, tweak specific hues, or stylize the footage to match your vision. Doing this last ensures all technical corrections are in place so your creative choices don't compromise image quality. Okay, and if we go back into our nodes and let's just disable them all and take them step by step. So the first thing we did was our color space transform. We took it from log footage to Rec 709. Next up, our white balance, which if you remember, was very subtle, almost can't tell the difference. Honestly, can't tell the difference, but a necessary step always. Third, we increased our exposure, which can be seen here. Our fourth step was increasing our saturation and fine-tuning our colors, which can be seen here. And our last step was increasing contrast and adding a vignette, like so. And why does this order work? This sequence ensures you start with the technical adjustments to normalize the footage before adding creative touches. Deviating from this workflow, like boosting saturation before fixing the white balance, can result in inaccurate or unnatural looking footage. If you have specific scenarios, like working with mixed lighting or severe underexposure, the order might vary slightly, but this general structure is industry standard. And there you have it, color correcting your log footage in just 5 steps. Hit that like button and subscribe for more tips on color grading. And if you have any comments, please leave them down below. See you guys in the next video.